No one watching the Japan series that year knew the truth. Not the reporters, not the commentators, not even the fans who filled the stadium with the kind of energy that shakes the concrete beneath your feet. The truth was buried deep inside the Yakult dugout, a truth so intense, so unbelievable, that it would only come to light years later. Everyone remembers the moment Yakult lifted their first Japan Series trophy. The champagne, the tears, the arms thrown into the air like they were reaching for destiny itself. But the story behind that moment, that is where the real drama lives. It all begins with a fear the players never admitted to anyone. A fear that maybe they weren't ready. That maybe the dynasty standing across the field, the mighty Hankyu Braves, were simply too big, too powerful, too legendary to topple. Even in the early practices leading up to Game 1, the mood felt tight. The swings were sharp but anxious. The pitchers hit their spots, but their breath carried a tremor. You could feel the pressure pressing down on everyone like a heavy curtain. And then came the silence. That strange, eerie silence before the opening pitch of the series. A silence so deep, one Yakult player later said it felt like the world was holding its breath. Game 1 hit them like a punch they never saw coming. Hankyu dominated from the first inning, their bats loud and merciless. Their pitchers ruthless. Yakult wasn't just outplayed, they were exposed. By the final out, players walked off the field with their heads lowered, dust sticking to their clothes like the weight of a prediction fulfilled. But something happened in the locker room after that loss. Something unexpected. No one yelled. No one slammed a locker. But a quiet fire started burning. It began with a veteran player who stood up, grabbed his glove, and said 3 simple words: "We're not done." The next morning, the team practiced with an intensity that felt different. Not desperate, determined. They moved like a team that refused to become a footnote in someone else's glory. By Game 3, that fire had become a storm. Yakult wasn't just responding, they were coming alive. Every pitch carried purpose. Every swing carried defiance. And then, it happened. A late-inning pitch. A swing that should have been nothing more than a routine grounder. But instead, the bat connected with a crack so loud it seemed to slice through the entire stadium. The ball soared deep into the night sky, rising higher, 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 until it disappeared beyond the outfield wall. A home run that changed everything. The crowd exploded. The bench erupted. But the players on the field didn't celebrate wildly. They looked at each other with wide eyes, as if asking, did that really happen? In the dugout, their ace pitcher sat perfectly still, breathing through the pressure building inside him. He whispered to himself, not to the coaches, not to the team, just to himself, give me the mound. I'm finishing this. The final inning of that game felt like a lifetime compressed into minutes. Every pitch felt like a heartbeat. Every foul ball sent the crowd into a spiral of hope and terror. And when the last out dropped into a glove, Yakult didn't cheer first, they exhaled. They had taken a step toward believing they could win. But behind the celebrations, a storm was brewing. One of their brightest stars, one whose plays defined their season, was hiding an injury so painful he could barely put pressure on his leg after games. Trainers wrapped his ankle in ice until it turned violet, but he walked onto the field anyway. Another player was suffocating under media pressure. Headlines called him weak. Critics said he'd crumble. Every newspaper felt like another doubt carved into his skin. Yet he kept showing up. Swinging through every ounce of doubt. Game 5 would become the turning point, a duel so intense it felt less like baseball and more like a legend unfolding in real time. Yakult and Hankyu traded blows inning after inning. The scoreboard shifted like a heartbeat, rising, falling, rising again. By the 9th, the stadium vibrated with tension. Yakult clung to a 1-run lead. Players stood at the edge of the dugout, unable to sit. The noise faded into a strange, humming quiet, the kind that only happens when thousands of people are too nervous to breathe. The final batter for Hankyu walked up. A giant of a hitter. A man who could crush hope with one swing. The count tightened. 1 ball. 1 strike. Another ball. A foul. Another foul. Every pitch felt destined for history. Then came the pitch that would decide everything. A high fastball. The batter unleashed a swing meant to break the world in half. The crack echoed like thunder. The ball soared toward the outfield wall. Fans rose as one. Players held their breath. The outfielder sprinted, legs burning, eyes locked on the sky. He jumped, reached, stretched every inch of his body, and caught it. The stadium erupted into a roar that shook the ground. Yakult had survived again. They had taken control of the series. But destiny wasn't done testing them. The night before the final game, the injured star's ankle ballooned so badly he could barely stand. Doctors told him to sit out. Coaches insisted he needed to rest. He shook his head. If we win this thing, I want to be on the field. Even if I can't walk tomorrow. Those words spread through the team like electricity. In that moment, a team became a brotherhood. When Yakult took the field for the decisive game, something felt different. Their steps were lighter, their eyes sharper, their movements unified, like a single heartbeat shared by all of them. They played not like underdogs, but like a team who had already made up their minds, they were going to win. And inning by inning, they carved their way toward destiny. The bats came alive, the defense locked in, the pitching tightened like steel. The final out didn't just fall, it felt like it dropped in slow motion, spinning through the air, landing softly into a glove that sealed history. The stadium exploded. Players sprinted onto the field, some laughing, some crying, some collapsing under the weight of what they had just done. Yakult Swallows, once doubted, once dismissed, were champions of Japan for the first time. But the real story didn't happen in front of the cameras. It happened in the quiet moment afterward. When the team huddled together, arms over shoulders, a silent understanding passing between them. They had battled fear. They had fought injuries. They had endured doubt from the world, and from themselves. And they won not because they were perfect. They won because they refused to break. In that circle, with the stadium lights blazing above them and the echoes of victory ringing in their ears, they understood something rare. Sometimes a team doesn't win because they're the strongest, but because they're the ones who simply refuse to let go of the dream. And that is the hidden truth behind Yakult's first Japan Series victory. A story carved from pain, forged in pressure, and remembered forever by the players who lived a miracle.